Hey guys, what's up? Darcy here at 6 Strings 9 Lives. Welcome to episode 34 of 6 with 6 Strings. In case you're not familiar with these episodes, it's just me grabbing 6 albums from my collection, generally from 6 different bands, sometimes, multiple albums from the same band. But in the case of this video today, I actually grabbed 12 albums, but 6 of them I'm only going to use as a quick reference. And I base these episodes around a theme. So today we are... well, what are we going to call this one? We're going to call it 6 metal follow-up albums that don't suck, or do they? Something we've always talked about in videos and, with friends. Timing. When did you get into a band? What was your first album that you heard from a certain band? I mean, your number one could be my least favorite from a band, or vice versa. But what I kind of did here is, well, obviously there's many follow-up albums. I mean, there's an endless supply to talk about. You followed up this one. But I kind of went with following up a very successful album, a very important album in a band's discography. And then the next one, well, it wasn't as well received. It might be well received by you, but, the general consensus is, it wasn't as good. It was rushed. The songs weren't strong. Lineup change, whatever. But so I picked 6 here to talk about today, and as usual, jump in the comments. Let me know a few of examples that you've thought of. I mean, again, you're gonna have no problem finding examples, but I thought I'd just let you know about these follow-up albums, that I like them generally more than the general public, whatever you want to say. But let's start off with, I'll hold up the main, or the kind of the higher profile album. And in some cases here, some are way up here, some are, medium. They might even not be that high profile to you. But for me, it could be an entry point, which for this band, this was not my entry point, but it still remains my favorite from this band. So this is Suicidal Tendency, Lights, Camera, Revolution. Came out in 1990. I guess you would call this their 5th studio album, or if you counted what's that one that's Controlled by Hatred, or Deja Vu, Feel Like Shit, that one. Anyways, now the follow-up to this came out 2 years later, and a lot of people that I talked to dropped off these guys after this album. But I stayed on board, and I actually love this album. This is The Art of Rebellion. This one came out in 1992, produced by Peter Collins. So they definitely changed producers. I think Mark Dodson produced this one. So Peter Collins, most notable for me would be quite a few Rush albums. But here's where Suicidal got a little more, I don't know, almost experimental, but I think it's a great album. Songs on here, I mean, there's almost no weak tracks, and but a couple of highlights for sure would be Nobody Hears, I Wasn't Meant to Feel This, Asleep at the Wheel. I know that one's really weird with a hoo-ha, hoo-ha. Again, I'm not a singer at all. Accept My Sacrifice, great tune there too. Which Way to Free. So that's one that I really enjoy as a follow-up to a bigger album. Now, sales-wise, I have no idea. I would imagine that Lights, Camera sold better than this one. And then I think I hung on for about 2 more albums after this one with Suicidal, and then it kind of dropped off with them too. And I do like some of their earlier work too, but there's one that people kind of jumped off. So moving on, I'm going to go with one that... this one's kind of obvious in the thrash world, or maybe not obvious, but it's talked about a lot. But so the one I'll hold up in a second is the follow-up to this one. This is Anthrax, Among the Living, which, hello Anthrax, we're still waiting for a new album. What would be, you're coming up on your 12th studio album? I mean, and 2016, going on probably 9 years before we're going to see a new Anthrax album. But again, I am pumped to hear that new album. But the follow-up to Among the Living, which is you know, absolute thrasher piece, and, you know, a legendary album. These guys part of the Big Four, and you know what I'm going to hold up, but I have always loved this album. Rushed? I don't know. I can't hear where it's rushed. Are the songs as strong as Among the Living? No, but there is some good shit on this album. The cover song is okay too. What's the cover song on here? Antisocial. You know, thinking back at the time, did I even really know that was a cover song? You know, you kind of put shit together years later, but overall, I mean, it starts off great. Be All, End All, Make Me Laugh, Now It's Dark. 13 is just a 49-second waste of your life. I don't know why they put that one in there, but to wrap it up, there's a finale. That is a great track too. Whoops. Yeah, let me know how you feel about this one. I know there's people that, I don't know, it's kind of mixed messages on this one. Yes, we know it's not as good as Among the Living, but it is a good album in my opinion, for sure. All right, moving on to, let's jump back, way back. Well, yeah, way back. Let's go way back to the 80s. One of my first metal albums that that really kind of cemented my path, and that was this one, Quiet Riot, Metal Health. This is my original copy, and where the hype sticker stuck right on there, but whatever. But yeah, monumental album for these guys, really put them on the map. And at the time, I thought this was their debut, but you know, years later, you find out this is actually their third album. But this is kind of obviously my entry point for this band. Again, we don't have to talk much about this. I still love the album to this day. You know, play it at least once a year type of thing. But the follow-up to this is called Condition Critical. So 83, the Metal Health comes out, and then, or no, that was 84, and then 85, this one comes out. So only a year later, which is still remarkable to me that these albums came out, you know, so quickly. I mean, even Anthrax, 1987, and then you got State of Euphoria coming out in 88. Yeah, so yeah, not a lot of time in between, and still putting out great stuff. But this one, yeah, people say no, it's not as good as Metal Health, but I really love this album, and I truly do. And I say love because I do. I bought this brand new, release day, took it home, the cassette, and it probably never left my cassette player for 6 months for sure. But starting off with a track called Sign of the Times, love that. The guitar riff, or the riff on there, the guitar tone on here is awesome. Mama, We're All Crazy Now. So another cover song. I'm okay with that. It doesn't, you know, they're kind of milking that a little bit. But then we got Party All Night, which I think is a great track. But one of my, what do you call it? Like a deep favorite track on here is called Red Alert. And actually the title track, Condition Critical, is really good, kind of slow and plotty. But again, I've always had time for this album, and I thought it was a really good follow-up to Metal Health way back in 1984 and 5. Really showing my age here. So what do we got? 3 left. Actually, here's, I just pulled these ones out probably about a week ago when I heard that one of the founding members, Mike Dean, was leaving this band. But I've always been a big Pepper Keenan fan, and that part of this band is still my favorite era. But so we'll hold up the one that I feel is, you know, most notable. You could say their album Blind is also really notable, but this is Corrosion of Conformity from, this album came out in 1994. And for 94, I mean, this is definitely a special album for me. Loved it. And I mean, again, I would say there's no weak tracks, but there's just not a lot on here. Clean My Wounds just will always remain my favorite track from this album, but there's so many good tracks on here. Albatross, Broken Man, heavy, crunching. What else? Shake Like You. There's just some really cool variety on this one. But we're not really talking about this one, but we're going to talk about the follow-up one to this. Not as good. Yeah, I could go with that. Not as good, but does it suck? No, not whatsoever. So 2 years later, here comes Wise Blood. And this one, I think, did it have an original hype sticker saying that James Hetfield was on here with Man or Ash? I don't remember. But yeah, good song anyways. And it's cool that James Hetfield's on there. He is a good friend of Pepper Keenan. Actually, Pepper Keenan tried out for the bass spot, if you remember, back in 03 or whatever, for when Metallica was looking for a bass player. That would have been cool, but probably not the fit. I mean, honestly, Robert was the guy for the band if you watch those auditions. But yeah, I'd still take Jason back any day, but no disrespect to Robert. Anyways, on to this album again. Yeah, not as good as Deliverance, but this one has got some ass kickers on it for sure. Opens up with King of the Rotten, Goodbye Windows. I think it was even, I think there was even a Grammy nomination for Drowning in a Daydream, which is a great track. Redemption City, that one jumps out at me too. Yeah. Long Whip, Big America, the title track, Wise Blood. Good follow-up. Does not suck in the least. Here's another band that I hung on for, I think, maybe 2 more albums. I think they're still active, even though Mike has left the band. I think Pepper and Woody will move on with, I think they have their drummer from one of their newer albums on that album, now that Reed Mullen has passed away. Rest in peace, Reed Mullen. All right, here's one that is kind of a, I don't know. Again, I don't know if it's an obvious choice, but how do you follow up this? Rest in peace, 1990, Thrasher piece, enough said, we'll put it down. But a lot of people will say that this is kind of, and yes, bands were trying different things. They were, trying to keep up with the times. Megadeth comes back in 1992 with Countdown to Extinction, and they're evolving at this point. This is not Rust in Peace. But in 1992, if I told you that even jumping from And Justice for All to the Black Album, or from Rust in Peace to this album, if I told you that I said, oh man, these guys are selling out, back then I'd be lying to you. I'd be completely full of shit. All I ever thought back then is, this is the next Metallica album, this is the next Megadeth album, this is really good. And I've always thought that. Don't like the cover as much. I always thought this would have made a better front cover for sure. Sorry about the glare there. That would have made a heck of a front cover, because I wanted Vic Rattlehead on the cover, but we jump in, and I mean, Symphony of Destruction. Yeah, that riff, I don't know. It's super catchy. Love it. Foreclosure of a Dream. They kind of, definitely not ballad territory by any means, but it was slowed down for sure. Great lyrics on that one. Love that track. Sweating Bullets, still popular to this day. They play that one too. A couple of my, at least one of my favorite deep tracks is Captive Honor. But yeah, I think great follow-up album. Definitely would love to see this one get reissued on vinyl. I don't know what's happening. Capitol Records seems to be slow, very slow at doing things like that. But anyways, there's that one. Let me know, did you jump off of Megadeth after that? Were you disappointed? I was not. All right. I could have used many examples, well, not many examples, but there's 2 or 3 that really popped out with this band. Judas Priest, my favorite overall band. I always say I got a lot of favorite bands, but Judas Priest is, if you said who's your single most favorite band, that would be Judas Priest. And I thought, should I hold up a follow-up Turbo from 1986, following up Defenders? But I went with one. I even went a little further back. Before I even really knew of the band, my entry point to these guys was 1982. So I didn't really know these albums back then. But how do you follow up this at the time, their highest charting album in 1980, British Steel? which the next album I'll show you is, obviously it's sandwiched in between two really solid metal albums, being British Steel and then Screaming for Vengeance. But I'm talking about Point of Entry, which over the years that I've been doing YouTube and, making videos and watching other people, this one gets its share of shit. Yeah, I understand a little bit, but I've always loved this album. And even in my Judas Priest ranking, this is middle of the road Judas Priest for me. This is not bottom end, but this is the North American cover with that cool paper trail all the way. But I know this cover is probably not as nice as the European one, but I like it more. It's the one I know. Again, timing, stuff like that. But when you go to, and why I said the other two are metal albums, because this one leans more to a hard rock vibe. You got, but with obviously metal tinges scattered all over the place. But Heading Out to the Highway, great track. But if I never hear it again, I'm okay. But a couple standouts on here for me have always been Desert Plains and Solar Angels. Those are two of my favorite Judas Priest tracks, period. But there's lots of good just hard rock on here, like Turning Circles, Hot Rockin'. But I've never ever thought this thing sucked. And if you do, that's okay too. We all, like I said, we all have those different opinions. We hear things differently, but let me know in the comments. Those are just 6 examples, something to talk about. Yeah, like I said, jump in, let me know some examples where you thought a follow-up album to a high profile album was, really good. And yeah, let me know. Hope you enjoyed that one. Until next time, stay heavy.